it was so euphoric. And like you said, to have your chosen name being announced, the support from the whole organization right from the very beginning, asking right away, hey, how do we navigate this, or how do we best support you? Yeah, it's just so surreal. And I feel so blessed and so lucky because while I played, I wasn't able to really enjoy those moments, those really special moments, and those accolades and those awards. I wasn't able to celebrate them fully, and then to have a second chance of that as my authentic self, it was just like I'm just being so blessed right now. Like I'm so lucky to have this opportunity.
Hello again, everybody, and happy holidays from all of us at CharSports 1, Char News 1, and Transpositions News. I'm Karleigh Webb, and on this Christmas Eve, I have a heartwarming tale for all of you. And it began in a childhood on Canada's prairies. There's this kid growing up in Saskatchewan. Kid's name's Maven Maurer, a gentle soul with a rugged streak that showed up best on a football field. Now, this kid was good in high school, was even better in the Canadian junior ranks, played for the Regina Rams, 2 Canadian Bowl championships. And Maurer got the notice of the Canadian Football League. What came next? 12 years in the CFL as a Saskatchewan Roughrider, a British Columbia Lion, an Ottawa Renegade, and an Edmonton Eskimo. Top 10 all-time in special teams tackles. Maurer's calling card was being able to track down and take down the speedy pinballs and gizmos that the CFL is known for. And the kid was a part of 2 Grey Cup champions, 2 of the most improbable underdog Grey Cup champions in the history of the CFL. She found success on the gridiron, but she always felt that something wasn't right, something was missing. She spent years after retirement figuring it out, and in 2020, she figured it out, found her truth, and began her gender transition. In September 2024, the British Columbia Lions were celebrating their 2000 Grey Cup champion, a special championship team. The first Grey Cup champion that came from a losing record in the regular season to race through the playoffs and win the Grey Cup. Maven Maurer was a part of that team. But would Maven show up for this special reunion? She made a game day decision, flew to Vancouver, was a part of the festivities, in what became a coming out for a group of people she was closest to. And since then, she's continued to come out more and more. This is her story tonight, the story of finding Maven.
Thanks, fans. It's time now to officially welcome our 2024 Wall of Fame inductees. The story of the 2000 Grey Cup champion BC Lions is a story about overcoming adversity, a lot of teamwork, and a roster of players whose names already adorn the walls of local and national Hall of Fames. It's the story of a team that began the season with a 2-4 start before changing their head coach, and a story about a team that rallied late in the season. A team led by one of the last great QB play callers and a double-headed monster in the backfield. A team looking to write one final chapter for a hometown boy on his last ride after 25 seasons as a Lion. And so, like all great championship teams, the story begins and ends with the people. And tonight, as we honor the legacy of this great team, we want to focus on the people, the players, coaches, and staff that will collectively take their rightful place on the BC Lions Wall of Fame, and in doing so, have their chapter of our shared legacy live forever. Come on, Lions fans, let me hear you roar for your 2000 Grey Cup champion, BC Lions!
And joining us now is the woman who did it all, Maven Maurer. First, welcome to Transposition Sports, and more so, trans woman to trans woman. Welcome home.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. And to start, you went public and started telling your story. What's these last few weeks been like for you?
Yeah, like you said, it's been pretty wild. At times, a little bit overwhelming. I kind of have. I've been living full time as a woman the last, almost 2 years, just under 2 years, about 22 months now, relatively quietly, like in my own little bubble, doing my own little thing, and just never have really been super public until the last couple of weeks here. Last couple of months ago was the Lions Wall of Fame induction for our 2000 team, and yeah, that was the first time really being uber public with my new presentation.
I want to talk about that. What made you decide to jump on that plane to Vancouver and be there?
Well, one, I wanted to see my old teammates. I haven't seen a lot of these guys in over 20 years, and like you play football, so like your teammates are like your family. Like those guys are like my brothers, and it was like a little reunion, so to speak, a little family reunion. And the only thing that would have stopped me was fear, a fear of any kind of negative outcome or any kind of story that you play in your mind, and I did not want to let fear rule me.
What was your greatest fear heading there, or even before there?
Well,
Because what was your
yeah.
greatest fear?
Well, my traumas come from a child being bullied and being ostracized, being ridiculed, and being an outsider. So being excluded. So I had played football for a long time. I think in part because I had that inclusion with those guys. That was an instant. You had an instant team. I mean, I can even think back to high school. Like I didn't know any of those guys. I didn't hang out with them in high school. But the day I made the team, all of a sudden I have this like I'm on the inside circle. So for me, it's like whether or not they're going to accept me, whether or not the fans are going to accept me, whether or not this is going to be a huge deal. And I think it's just enough of a big deal that I can handle it, I can manage it. But yeah, I really didn't know what to expect. So I guess it is that fear of the unknown, what could happen. So if you let fear rule you, it's like, what's the worst thing that can happen? But if you don't, it's like, what's the best thing that can happen? And I really do think that being there and going there and celebrating with them and being welcomed with open arms and hugs and everything like that, I think it healed a part of me that I didn't know needed healing.
You walk into BC Place that day, old teammates there, fans there, and they introduce you. What was it like to get those cheers?
Oh, it was so euphoric. And like you said, to have your chosen name being announced, the support from the whole organization right from the very beginning, asking right away, hey, how do we navigate this, or how do we best support you? Yeah, it's just so surreal. And I feel so blessed and so lucky because while I played, I wasn't able to really enjoy those moments, those really special moments, and those accolades and those awards. I wasn't able to celebrate them fully, and then to have a second chance of that as my authentic self, it was just like I'm just being so blessed right now. Like I'm so lucky to have this opportunity.
Now, one thing about that team, because I want to go back to 2000. You came into the Lions a little bit later in the season. What was it like walking into that locker room for the first time? It's like it's later in the season. They're struggling, but they're in the middle of a run because they lost 4 of the first 6 to start. What was it like walking into that locker room?
Well, at first it was a little bit like a dumpster fire because my first day there was a players only meeting. And if you played long enough, when there's a players only meeting, like things are bad. Things are not good. But really it was all about how there's too much talent on that team, right? And for them to not be successful. So I was just like, what am I getting into? It was like I had been released from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. We were 0-5. traditionally not very good those last couple years. So it was like stepping into another, like, oh, I just like stepped into the same situation. But yeah, like you said, joining a team partway through the year, it's a little bit like everyone can maybe relate to changing schools partway through the year. Like you haven't been there since the beginning. You're a little bit of an outsider. So there's a little bit of, there's a little bit of anxiety that goes along with that. But yeah, like I said, I went out there. It was only supposed to be for one game, and I ended up doing well enough that they found a way to keep me on the roster the rest of the year. And it was a storybook year.
When I was looking at the roster, I was thinking, how in the world does this team go 8-10? When you have Damon Allen, granted, some people were saying Damon Allen was starting to be on the downside. Some people said he was washed up. You have that two-headed Hydra in the backfield with Ellington and Drummond. And you're playing against a deadly Montreal team with Anthony Cavillo. Yeah. Talk about your role in that game, because I saw you throwing blocks. You were doing your job stealing the backside.
I was on the backside, short yardage offense, back up to Millington, and made my mark primarily on special teams with that team. I was on my way to becoming this special teams demon that I kind of became the next year. I made a name for myself the following year on special teams. But yeah, that game, I mean, I didn't pay attention. We don't pay attention to any of that stuff, any of that hoopla, whatever. The thing that I remember about our BC team is, yeah, there is too much talent. It doesn't matter what the record is. There's too much talent on this roster. Like, our confidence never wavered. Like, the outcome of the game was never in doubt. And because I had played so many years with Saskatchewan on a poor team, that you get into the habit of not looking at the scoreboard because you don't want your play to represent what the scoreboard is saying. So you have to play because they're watching, they're filming, right? So you have to give it everything on each and every play. So I had gotten to that habit, and by that time that Grey Cup rolled around, that's what I was doing. I don't watch the scoreboard. I just play as hard as I can on every play. And going back and watching it, it was wild because it's not the game I remember, because you remember it a certain way, and the outcome of the game never ever seemed in doubt for us or for me.
What was it like holding a piece of that Grey Cup?
Surreal. Like it seems, because you dream of that. You want to win championships, you want to contribute, and then to actually go out and do it. And I can't remember where, like, I used to have a picture of me shirtless, it's the middle of November, take off our shoulder pads, take off the jerseys, hoisting the Grey Cup, drinking out of the Grey Cup in the locker room. Just surreal, like such a special moment. My family was there. My uncle and my dad were there. So it was really cool. After the game, they're on the sideline with us, taking pictures and stuff. It was quite a wild moment, and I was happy that my dad got to experience. He's a huge CFL fan, so for him to be able to have that was really cool.
Now I'm wondering, did you root for a team growing up?
Yeah, we did. We were actually, my dad's from Manitoba, so we grew up Bombers fans. And even after he moved to Saskatchewan, he didn't convert while everybody else did, like all his other family members. And my whole mom's side of the family is all from Saskatchewan, so they're all diehard Rider fans. And yeah, so my dad was a Bomber fan. We grew up watching the Bombers. I wore 38 in high school, which was Willard Reeves's number for the Bombers in the 80s. Yeah, great running back.
So they didn't infect you with Rider Green.
They didn't. No, we resisted. Yeah. So when I made it into the CFL, I originally played for the Rough Riders, and my dad was like, "Well, you're in the CFL. Yeah, too bad it's for the Riders." But all jokes aside, no, it was a great experience, and we all have that path. Everything happens for a reason.
Why be this public now? Why do this? Because you had said it yourself, you were private. What? Why, Maven? Why step out now?
Because I see other trans people don't get to live the way I get to live. I feel like I'm a little bit privileged in the sense that like I don't have to worry about my safety when I leave the door because of who I am or who I was or even what I look like. I still look like I can take care of myself. And so my experience is vastly different from others. Uh, and a lot of people live in fear, and that's not right. And if I can do something to change that, I would like to do that. Nobody should have to live in fear, as well as in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and I think one of the eastern provinces like New Brunswick, they want to not talk about gender diversity in school. So basically, they want to shove everybody that's questioning or gender diverse, put them in the box, put them in the closet. Like we're not going to talk about it. And trans like they if they have preferred pronouns or preferred names, they don't have to use them. It's actually illegal to use them unless they get permission from the parents. So all of the rights have really been taken away from the trans youth. So and I disagree with that, and I want to stand up and make my voice known that when is open, kind communication ever a bad thing? Like it's not. So let's keep the dialogue going and let's talk about this. Not the answer is not to like not talk about it. That's it's not right.
Among the people you played with and played against, who's reached out to you? Who's reached out to you now?
I've actually had a quite a great number of former teammates reach out. Like I said before this BC thing this last year, yeah, I had emailed alumni or little like alumni rooms and groups and said, hey, just so everyone knows, I'm changing my email. It's not going to reflect my old name. It's going to reflect my new name. And she, her, please. And yeah, like everyone was just like, "Holy cow, okay, wow!" Like everyone's, the vast majority of people of my teammates have been supportive. There's the odd couple that, what they've said, like, "Hey, I don't agree with it, but you do you." But that comes from maybe a lack of education or awareness. But I keep the lines of communication open, like, hey, and I just throw it out there, like, if you ever want to talk, I can talk. If you ever have questions, as long as they're brought with kindness, I'll answer them.
Well, I'm just wondering, what's
no,
to
everyone
agree
has
with?
been super good.
That's the thing. What's to agree with or disagree with? It just is.
A lot of times religion gets in the way, or I don't know, like politics maybe. Because I do like half our team or more than half our team would be American. So there's a lot more. I feel like there's a lot more political, turmoil in the States as compared to Canada. But Canada is kind of like, especially Alberta and Saskatchewan, kind of piggybacks off of Alberta. Alberta is kind of mimicking what's going on in the States, and Saskatchewan's just kind of going along with Alberta.
But
So
then
I'm
again, when
trying to
hasn't? But then again,
right,
when hasn't
exactly.
Alberta done that? Alberta's been
Yeah,
doing
that's
that
what
since
that's
the
what they do.
90s. But
Mm-hmm.
for yourself at the same time, how did you feel? Because I saw some of the pictures of you at your reunion things when you were in Vancouver. And it just seems like the teammates didn't miss a beat. How did that
Not
make
at
you
all.
feel?
I'm not alone, right? Like that's what it's all about. Like I'm doing it, but I'm not alone. Like I know all of my all these guys have my back. And they're phenomenal guys. Like you said, Hall of Fame caliber. Um, like, and I mentioned Willard Reeves. He's another one. I never played with him, but he reaches out and he lets himself know how proud he is of me for standing up and doing what I'm doing, and the person that I am, and how, like, I mean, that's how do you describe that when someone that you looked up to as a kid is telling you that how proud they are of you? Like, I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm not doing alone. And part of the reason why I am stepping forward is because I have so much support around me, right? And, whether, I mean, may not be physically with me, but I know they're out there and they're there and I can reach out anytime. So, it's a network. It's a network of support.
Quick football question before we get deep. Bombers fan, right? Name one
Former.
win. Well, I'm
Now
just
I'm kind
wondering.
of like Edmonton treated me so well. Now I'm like, okay,
Okay, then
I'm
pick one from.
Elks fan. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Pick one from each team. One. I want you to complete this sentence. The Winnipeg Blue Bomber I would have loved to play with is blank.
Oh, 100% Willard Reeves. Yeah, I enjoyed watching him, and I wanted, like I said, when I started playing football in high school, I wanted to model myself after his style, and I enjoyed watching him. And not only was he a great athlete, a great football player, he's a great human being. So yeah, 100% easy answer.
Edmonton Eskimo / Elk I'd want to play with is blank.
You know what? I have to go with another running back. And back in the day, it was Blake Marshall. And I've never talked to him. I don't know him from a hole in the ground, but he was a physical, and that was another running back / fullback that I wanted to model my game after. Yeah, he was a bruiser. But then he also had some big plays too. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching Blake Marshall. Even though we didn't watch too many Elks Eskimos game back in the day, but when I was, it was that guy.
I want to go back. Young kid, young tough prairie kid in Saskatchewan. What was young Maven Maurer like?
I was always outside. I was always outside. Um, Much darker than I am now. Like the sun had just like I was brown, and I was a rascal, and I was rowdy, and I was rough, and I was, you know. But before that, I was not all that. I kind of became that. I kind of evolved into that. But I love people. Like I love, as much as I'm okay being by myself and I love doing my own thing. I love being around my friends and stuff like that. And I was really lucky. I lived in a complex where it was a group of townhouses, like a cluster, I guess you could say. And so many kids were there. It was single income housing back in the day, and so many children were there. So it was always someone to play with, and whether it was like hide and seek or pick up games of football or street hockey or whatever, there was always something to do. So I was always outside. I was a true like 80s kid where you're outside all the time. You come in when the street lamps come on, and that was it.
Rowdy, rascally, getting out there, getting after it. Did this even factor into any of this back then? Did the whole identity
Well,
thing
my
even
defend
factor in?
No, it was suppressed. It was suppressed. So I had realized only in about 2020, February 2020, when my egg cracked through deep meditation. I was really like I was diving within and I was trying to figure myself out because I wasn't happy. I had all the stuff that you're supposed to have. I had the career and I had the family and I had the house and I had the cars, and I accomplished all my goals in football, and I was unhappy and I was miserable. So after a near death experience, I had gone within and really tried to investigate what was going on. And through deep meditation, a guided meditation, all of these memories that I had suppressed and I had locked away came flooding back. Memories of playing with the girls on the playground, laughing like the girls, sounding like the girls, but then getting made fun of from the boys, and then getting ridiculed and called Michelle, and then knee-jerk reaction. It's like, no, don't you, all that stuff. And then I changed my name
Mm-hmm.
from Michael to Mike. I changed from Michael to Mike so that I couldn't, so the boys would stop doing that. But then also it's like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I can't do that again. So you keep on taking like a right-hand turn further away from your authenticity, but in order to protect yourself. So really, like, Mike was the first suit of armor that I put on. And over time, I just got rougher and tougher because the bullying didn't even stop after that. It kind of kept on, and I was like push pull. I was in the circle. I wasn't, all this like childhood stuff that, kids do. And yeah, as years progressed, I just got harder and tougher. And, by the time I got to high school, like, nobody's going to be making fun of me. Like, that was just like, that was the persona that I had. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? So it really is that story of the golden Buddha. Like, over time, you start to think that you are the armor and you forget that you're actually like gold inside.
I'll admit, hearing that brings back a lot. That brings back a lot of my childhood because no, you and I grew up very, very parallel in a lot of ways. How was football a part of that armor?
There was a way to be included. There was a way to be included. And when you play on a team, like I said, you have an instant family. I was not the cool kid or the popular kid in high school or whatever. I just did my own thing. I had a few groups of friends here and there. And then when I joined the football team in grade 10, it was like all of a sudden, like, some things opened up, right? Like, all of a sudden I'm in different circles now. And it's like, hey, wait, like, okay. But you get used to, and there's a safety in it. There's like a safety in numbers. You go to a party or whatever. There's 6 or 10 guys there that all, like, no one's going to do so. So it was a protection. It was all that, but it was that inclusion. And really part of what I wanted to do is to build a name for myself. Like, going back to grade school, I wanted to play in the CFL because then people would, maybe if I did that, if I accomplished that, people would respect me or people would look up to me. I certainly wouldn't get bullied. And I would be included in that. So really, like, that was my motivation: inclusion, status, yeah, that was the main reason.
Where was the first place where you realized I can play this game and do well in
it? I think for me, I always had a bit of a, like, I think we've all heard of imposter syndrome. I've experienced imposter syndrome my whole entire time with my career. I thought I was always going to be cut the next day. Like, because I was just like, I don't know what it was about me. I don't know if it was my own, knowing, maybe subconsciously, that this wasn't really the path or whatever. But I always felt like, I don't know if I ever really truly felt like I've got this, all the way up to, I can't remember when it was, maybe 05 or 06 or 07. One of those, I was with Edmonton and I had already won a Grey Cup, and my second Grey Cup, and I had outstanding Canadian honors. I still didn't have that feeling that I was solid, and I remember, this is a funny, like, little side story. I was at home for a bye week. I flew home in Regina from Edmonton, and Edmonton, a number called me from the Edmonton Eskimos on Monday morning after the weekend. And I was like, oh my God, my heart like dropped in my throat. Like, I thought I was being cut. I thought I was being traded. And I pick up the phone, and no, it was completely something unrelated. Apparently, I walked out of the shower while they were doing TV interviews, and I was naked on TV on the 6 o'clock news in Edmonton here. And that's what they were calling about, to apologize and to, like, and I'm like, I didn't I was like, oh, is that it? Like, okay, I thought I was being cut. Like, you just like, okay, whatever. It doesn't bother me. So I never really truly had that feeling that I was good and I made it for some reason. I don't know.
Even after from being a backup, playing in a Grey Cup, and ended up being outstanding Canadian of the game, and it was well earned. Four receptions, critical receptions, helped keep chains moving, making Troy Davis's job a lot easier that Sunday. Again, against another Ferris Montreal team coached by the Don.
Yeah.
Coached by Daddy. And you go out there and beat them in overtime. And even after all that, it wasn't enough.
Yeah, like I said, I could tell something was missing, and again, like, huge accomplishments. That game again, like the 2000 Grey Cup, that 2005 Grey Cup, both thrillers, and at the same time, both like the outcome, never any question in my mind or our minds. So watching it again for the first time was it wasn't anything like I remembered it. But yeah, it was just like I immediately like, and that was when I said I was going to fight. Like that's when I said I was going to join MMA because as that was right out. I was giving my post game interview, and I could feel like, what else do I have to do? Like I it's hard to explain. Yeah, like I just really didn't have any idea, but I just knew something wasn't right.
Leading up to that moment in 2020, take me through that process of how you unpacked it and got to the point where you felt I can Maven stop running.
I'm going to try not to cry.
If you cry, it's okay, because I'm going to tell you, I'm tearing up a little bit hearing this because so much of your story is mine in a ways you can't even begin to imagine. So no, when I hear you talk about growing up, that's my story in a lot of ways. I mean, in fact, if you look at my background, you see 10-year-old me.
Wow. Yeah, no, I'd love to hear your story someday too.
Oh, believe me, it's one day we're going to get into that. But right now, this is about you. How did you unravel that, especially after retirement? Because that in itself is, a pardon the pun, a transition.
Mm-hmm.
And over that next decade, how did you get from there to here?
Well, there was a moment, like, and I was pretty miserable. I had struggled with mental health, and I basically was looking at my youngest 18-year-old. I was looking at her when she graduated high school. That was the finish line, so to speak, and my job was done. And then I can go off and I'm going to go into the woods and not come back. Or, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I kind of knew like that was the end of the line for Mike. And, so doing all this, I had this near-death experience. And when she was 15, this was about, I think, 2018. She was 15. I was always going to take that first exit opportunity that I had. And because she was not graduated high school yet, I felt like my job wasn't finished. And also, I also believe that we all have our lesson in life that we're supposed to learn. And if you pass on before you learn that lesson, you're destined to repeat it. And I didn't want to repeat it. Like, that's how I did not want to do this over again. So I begged and I pleaded with God at the gates of heaven to, like, not today. Like, I'm not done. My youngest is too young. I haven't learned my lesson. And like, Sure enough, I did. I got a chance. I came back to this realm, this plane of reality, and I changed everything. I flipped the script. Before, when I used to play video games and watch movies and distract myself with working out and training and doing all these things, never ever looked at myself, never ever looked within. I think I was too scared to of what I might find. I flipped the script and I stopped doing all that. I turned to journaling. I turned to meditation and mindfulness. I started therapy. Um, and yeah, it was actually through a deep meditation where all of those suppressed memories came back, because we all have that room in our house where we throw junk into, we throw stuff in that we don't want to deal with, or we don't know what to do with, and we throw it in there, and it could be a closet or a room or whatever. And we also have that room in our brain, so we throw stuff in the back there. Okay, I'll deal with that later, whatever, and then you don't. And that's that when that door opened and those memories came flooding back, and there was more than just the one that I shared, but like plenty. It was eye opening. And then yeah, the next I think I spent around the next 2 years almost unpacking and deciding what to do with that. And okay, how am I going to proceed with this? I got my family, I have my wife. Regina, Saskatchewan is not the most of trans friendly places. And not like outward to say that as a negative, but it's just you don't see it. I didn't know. There was no community there for me. I tried to reach out, and I was really grasping a lot of trying to find my way. So it took a long time just to get to the point where I decided, okay, you know what, I have to live as a woman fully every day, because the chances that I had once a week or a couple times a week weren't enough. I needed more. You can't live for the weekend, or you can't live for one night a week or one day a week. Like, that's not living.
Oh, I've been there. Trust me, that was me. And that's one thing around the time when you were stepping forward, I was very much in a very similar place. 2020, you were trying, as you were just really stepping out. I was stepping into the idea of like, it stopped being clinical for me in 2020 during the whole COVID nonsense and the shutdown, and you get time to breathe and think. So I see where that healing's coming from. And for you, how was family affected by this moving forward?
Well, in the beginning, it was quite challenging, because I was this rough and tough, hyper masculine, walking around at 6 foot, 230 pounds of mostly muscle. And, sometimes I had the Wolverine chops, or I had the mohawk or whatever. Like, I was hyper masculine. So my kids, it took them a minute, but they did, like, they were pretty cool with it. But there were times I could tell that they were uncomfortable. My wife, same thing. Like, it was hard. It was hard for her because she had married Mike. She had married this tough football player that could be sensitive and could look after the kids and stay home with the kids in the off season. I was the stay-at-home parent in the winters, but I was going in another direction, so it was challenging, and it was difficult actually to be at home during those times. So really, Maven only got to come out, and at the time I was Talon. I didn't have, that was like my placeholder name, my temporary.
Just trying to you were trying to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. I knew I didn't want to be called Mike. That's that much I knew. So Talon it was for a little while, for a couple of years, but it was hard because I didn't really feel truly comfortable in my own home, and that's difficult. Like, when you're, not that anything was outward, or like, there were no arguments, or there were no whatever. It was just a feeling, right? It was just a feeling like, I think we all need some space. I need space so that I can really grow, so that I can be myself every day, all day, without worrying about what someone's thinking or feeling. I ended up making the decision to leave, move to Jasper, and yeah, start a new career, new city, new name, and I think there is that fantasy that you're going to go somewhere as a trans person, you're going to go somewhere and no one's going to know, right? Like you're going to fit right in, you're going to go stealth or whatever. And just for me, like even going, I knew I wasn't able to go stealth because I'm too muscular and I'm too got masculine features. But I was okay with that. Like I had no problem telling people, hey, this is my preferred pronouns, and yeah, I just rolled with it. And everybody that I've been with, pretty much like with CN, with all my coworkers, they've been supportive from the beginning. So that has really helped.
With that in mind, though, recently you made one serious social media offensive, because that's how I ran into you. You joined one of the online groups, and the first thing I saw was you rocking a serious dress, looking great. And I'm just wondering, what does being feminine mean to you? And what does being masculine mean to you now?
That's that's a tricky question because it's like femininity can be anything on the spectrum, right? Like that's what I'm learning, and that's what I've had to learn. It's ongoing, to be honest. I I talk about my muscles. Like I haven't showed. There are girls that show like pics on Facebook or socials or whatever, Insta, posing, doing muscle poses and stuff. I don't do that because I'm too thick still. Like you know what I mean? Like, but I do. I want to be perceived as feminine, and I think a lot of the women, 99% of the women, perceive me as a woman. There's a small percentage out there that don't, but honestly, the men, it's the opposite. Uh, I still get treated like one of the guys a lot with CN or with other guy friends or guys in the community. They just don't know how to act with me, so they just treat me like one of the guys. There are special handful of guys that do like see me as feminine, which I love, but that's okay. So like really, and that's what I want to also model, and that I've come to grips with is, yeah, femininity is a spectrum. Like you can have muscles, you can be strong, you can be whatever, all shapes, all sizes, all kinds of backgrounds. Like it doesn't matter. All walks of life. It comes from within. Really, it's like your soul, it's your being. That's who you are.
When did you first realize that, yeah, this is me? When did it really hit you like, yes, this is me and I can run with this?
I think I shared a post. I want to say it was early this year, and like I said, it's an ongoing thing. I shared like a kind of a gym pic, but it wasn't. I wasn't flexing or anything, but I was in the gym, and I was just like, you know what, like I'm just gonna start owning it. I'm gonna be. I'm muscular. So what? Like, and I love. But that's what I love. Like my role models, like I loved Wonder Woman. I loved Red Sonja. So like you'll know this. Like back in the day, Conan the Barbarian. Like this is the
Yeah.
80s. Like you could look on the screen, and I think that was part of my conditioning as well. You look on the screen, and that's like, okay, that's what a man. That's what a man is. Like so, I think part of me tried to be like that. But then when I discovered Red Sonja, because Red Sonja was like Conan 2 or 3, I was like, oh shit, like okay, I like this. Yeah, like I like it. I'm a that's what I'm drawn to. I'm attracted to or whatever. But really, like in actuality, like that's how I see myself. This warrior queen. That's how I see myself. And you know what? I'm just gonna own it. That's who I am. I'm gonna rock it. And you know what? Show all the other queens out there too that they can own theirs too.
A question on that, because you're talking about owning it. And right now I'm looking at your Instagram. And not only are you owning it, you're just taking a hold of it. This is you. I'm looking at some of the outfits and say, I need that in my life, I need that in my life, I need that in my life. At times, do you ever think about how do I reconcile, for example, you've had this career and recently that came back into focus. And you had this time when you were this person and you played in the CFL and you did well there. How do you reconcile where you are now with where you were then? If you do, or if you feel you need to, or do you?
Honestly, I think with that event in September there with BC, but then not only that, the week or 2 weeks after, I don't know if like I shared it as well, but the Edmonton Elks named me to their 2000s All Decade team. So again, just like wow, like what an honor, what an accomplishment. Like, but like I said, now and then they're asking me how they want me to be addressed and how they want to display my name and things like that. So yes, it's like bringing that past and that to today. It just is it's another thing for me to be able to like, wow, like I'm so lucky, I'm so blessed that these things can come together and that I'm able to like navigate like these kind of muddy waters, like where everything is kind of mixed together. It's and I think it's a work in progress, but I think the more you do it, the easier it gets. And as in part to that as well, I think it's another way for us as trans people to kind of look at the old version of ourselves, because there's a lot of in the online communities, there's a lot of like you kind of kill off the old person and you completely erase that old version yourself. That history started the day that you are a woman or that you're everyday living as a woman. And for me, like I think like yeah, Mike did too many things. Without Mike, I wouldn't be where I am now, and without Mike, I wouldn't have the family that I have. I wouldn't have my daughters. I wouldn't have my wife, and things would be terribly different. And there's no way I would want to wish any of that away. So, and that was really in part with my therapist. We're like, okay, how can we do this? Is there a way that we can say goodbye to Mike with grace and gratitude? We're not going to kill him off and erase him and whatever, but we're going to thank him. Thanks for getting us to this point. Thank you for protecting Maven up to this point. And if it was a car, if our body is a car, Maven's driving. Maven's driving now, and Mike's in the back seat. It's still a part of me, and I think it takes a lot of work. But once you kind of start doing the work, it's like okay, like I can do this. I can be around all of my football teammates where all they know me as is Mike or the Wolverine, and I can be Maven. And it's because that healing is there, and we've brought the two together.
How important was that healing for you?
It was tremendous. Like I thought I was okay. I had made the decision to go, and I thought I was strong enough to go, and I thought that I was healed enough to go, and I had done enough work. But really, once that, seeing the guys at the club the night before, and then being out on that field, like there was a piece or something that I wasn't aware that was either missing or it was broken or whatever. That was fixed. And because I'm standing up tall, way taller than I ever have before, and I really do believe it's because of that.
I remember the first night seeing you online and hearing about it, and first knowing your name, knowing who you are, and knowing what you did. And I was like, what? I looked at that, I was like, you what? This is so cool. I had to reach out because it's like, no, this is, and then after reading your stories, like I was thinking like, oh my God, this is my story growing up. You growing up in Saskatchewan, I grew up in Nebraska. I mean, I'll tell you, if you switched Regina and Omaha, no one would notice. Seriously,
Okay.
switch
Yeah.
those two cities, no one would notice. But both prairie kids playing this sport And for me, that was just like, wow. And seeing how you have, I mean, if I can share a little bit of my story, a little bit, your moment at BC Place mirrored my moment when I met a group of women who are a part of a football team down here. And I was told, we're a team for all women and you're welcome to play if you want to play. And at first I thought, I was like, this isn't real. But then I showed up at this tryout and I was like, oh, this is very real. And for me, that was that moment. No, you said that was that moment where it's like past and future could come together. Also, with that in mind, you have to take part in a very important tradition here at Transposition Sports right now. You see, Maven, at Transposition Sports, we have a rule. We have guests like you. You see, yes, we talk about transness here. We talk about all these different issues here, but you have to understand that as much as I'm trans and proud, I'm also a sports journalist and a sportscaster, and you've got to understand that at Transposition Sports, we show highlights, and guess what? We show yours too.
Oh my goodness!
You show yours. Remember you with the Regina Rams?
I had a great time with them. I loved. They used to make fun of me all the time because I used to look for contact, and I used to be hitting people when I didn't need to be hit.
And now let's fast forward.
Oh, I'm loving seeing that.
2005 Grey Cup, making all those key catches. Outstanding Canadian, playing with a younger Ricky Ray, still kind of balding even back then. And can we talk about here during that season? Against your Bombers, no less. Making a key catch and another one. Look at you opening the hole.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, they called me back. I think that was the first game back. They called me back.
And also, hey, you get touched. Yeah, you have a few touches. You have a few tutties. And of course, one of my favorite, when you were at Ottawa, you forget you were a Red-Black. Nice little pass there. Oh, can you?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Can you be any more?
I have not seen that.
Can you be any more open? Just a reminder to all the people out there watching, Maven Maurer can play some football. I noticed your eyes still lit up when you were looking at those. Your eyes still lit up.
Oh, yeah, there's that, and that's the thing, like with trans athletes, and also I want to be able to stand up for on the side of inclusion. Find solutions, let's find ways so that everybody can play. Because that feeling of competition, that feeling of the inclusion of sports, of teams, does not go away just because you're transitioning. Like that passion or that competitiveness does not go away, and that joy to do those things. So yeah, like I wanna champion inclusion, and let's find solutions here instead of roadblocks.
I know 3 people who may need to hear that as we head into 2025. One thing that's going to happen in Canada next year, and it has to happen by law, is that at least by October 20th next year, Canadians have to decide, do we keep our current government or get a different one? And from the looks of things and things that have happened in the landscape, just like down here, south of the border, trans people are going to be an issue. And some people are going to try and make it an issue. If you could sit down with Justin Trudeau, with Pierre Poilievre, with Jagmeet Singh, what would you tell them about being trans in Canada right now?
I just want to. We're people. We are just like anybody else. We are people, and this whole mindset that we're mentally ill, or we're this, or we're predators, or we're this, like that's just fear-based talking, that's fear-based, fear-mongering. Like we're just people, and we're humans, and we want the same things that everybody else has: a chance to be a part of the community, a chance to be part of teams and sports, and just to be treated like anybody else. Really, is there anything more than that? Like, and this whole idea of talking down to us, like it's like we're subhuman or whatnot. It's just, I don't know where it's coming from, and it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, like I have seen a lot of the comments in some of those groups that it's just like, holy cow, I can't believe I can't believe some people, this is 2024 and people are still talking like that. Like, but we've gone through the same things with other like minority groups, and we're just repeating the same mistakes. Like, it's baffling to me. Why are we just like changing the label of whatever minority or whatever marginalized group? We're just changing the label of them and going through these phases where we have to make fun of or segregate or whatever these certain groups. I don't understand why we keep doing it. We just keep on doing the same thing over and over.
Few home stretch questions. First off, what is the Maven Maurer go-to outfit? Heading
My
out
go-to
Saturday night,
outfit,
what's the
honestly,
go-to outfit?
oh, Saturday. Oh my gosh. So it all depends on my mood. I have like multiple personalities. So I can just go simple, like just legs and a leggings and a sweater. I can go like raver girl or festival girl and get all kind of like get on some short shorts with a little crop top and
Uh-oh.
put on
Oh,
some
don't
glitter
hurt
and stuff like
nobody.
that. So I can be classy, and I can dress up a little bit and do whatever. It really all depends on what I'm feeling that day. It's just like, yeah, like, and that's what I feel like. We talked about that spectrum of femininity. Like, it could be anything. Like, I can't believe how much I can change based on hairstyle, how I do my makeup, how I dress. It completely changes. Yeah, whatever you're feeling in the moment. And that's what the most fun thing is about being a girl, is just is that expression, doing however you want to do it, how you can do it, like, own it. I love it.
If you could go back right now and meet, say, 12-year-old you, what do you think 12-year-old you would say about you now?
What would my 12-year-old version say about me now? Wow. I think the 12-year-old version of me would think I'm pretty cool, because like I said, that I love that strong warrior woman kind of like like that type. And I think, yeah, if my 12-year-old version were to see me, I think they'd fancy me. So um yeah, and I'd want to give that 12-year-old version of me a hug and let them know that everything's going to be all right.
Exit question. After finding yourself, finding your place, and the work you've done on yourself, especially, what's next for Maven Maurer? Where will we see her next?
That's a great question. I'd like to remain open to possibilities. I'm open to what the universe is going to bring my way, but ultimately I know when I am my happiest is when I'm helping people, when I'm affecting people in a positive way. That lifts, that brightens my day, that makes my heart grow a little bit bigger. So i would like I would like to be somewhere in that field where I can talk to many people, where I can affect positive change, that's where I want to go. And how that happens, I'm going to let the universe decide that. But I think that's where my higher self wants me to go.
It's been great seeing you blossom and seeing you glow. And like I said from the beginning, Maven Maurer, welcome home, sis. Welcome home. And thank you for joining us on Transposition Sports.
Thank you for inviting me. I've had just the greatest time chatting with you and sharing my story. And yeah, I thank you for inviting me.